Hello, everyone. It looks like we're live for the viewers in the US. It seems like I'm an hour late, but it's just that we haven't moved our clocks forward. We do it at the end of March. I think you did it yesterday, so we're only 4 hours ahead. Uh, anyway, nice to see so many of you already waiting here. We're going to talk about silver, the biggest opportunity of the decade and how it could leave the Nasdaq in the dust. And we're gonna have Clive Thompson and Rafi Faber on. They haven't arrived yet. And for those of you who are watching this recorded, I spend the first 10, 12 minutes or so saying hello to everyone, and then we start at the top of the hour. That's always been the kind of tradition um, on these live streams. So, uh, yeah, my cold's much better. I think I should be okay by tomorrow or Tuesday. We got Cypher 75 from Florida. Alan Mersick is here. Henrik Sjöblom from Sweden. Ricois from Montreal or Montreal. I see that Trudeau is supposed to resign officially today. Darren Smith is here. Silver for the win. Yep. Rose RU from Italy. Buonasera from Italy. The dad Dan says hello, Mario. Donna Steinman says hi, Mario. Yeah, we're also gonna, of course, take as many of your questions as possible. Try to do that. Indorama, do you accept CBDCs for your super chats? I'm not sure if they got. No, I don't think they have CBDCs yet on the super chat. I don't have a CBDC wallet. If they did, um, I guess the ECB wants to start a CBDC later on this year. If people use that, it would be converted into pounds. For as I'm in the UK, we don't have a CBDC. Niels Han Dynasty, what are your thoughts on the South African economy? Uh, I don't really follow that too closely, to be honest. The South African economy. What I've seen is that the government there has passed some laws that are quite, well, persecutorial. Is that a word? Against the minority farmers in South Africa. And I saw that President Trump is looking to give asylum to white South African farmers. Uh, I don't think it's good. Uh, I think South Africa could be going the way of Zimbabwe. But as I said, I'm not too familiar with the South African economy and how it's doing. Doug Wilder from North Dakota says, hi, Mario. Who else have we got? John Barleycorn, Mark Sneed. Yeah, there's a lot of new subscribers. We're getting quite a lot of new subscribers, which is good. So a lot of new faces and old faces still. Jeff Johnson from Minnesota, Mark Sneed, Dutch Libertarian. He's a regular, long-time regular. Prospector says, Mario, stop selling all your crypto. Me selling crypto? I guess you're being sarcastic. Good evening, Mario. Thomas says, Hio Silver is here. Niels Han Dynasty agreed with my view on the South African economy. Well, there you are. Are you in South Africa, Neil? I guess the best person to ask that would be the Francis Hunt, the market sniper. He's there right now. Yeah, Rudy. Yeah, he is here. I think he just he was on the floor, and now he's just jumped on the sofa. He's looking a bit scruffy. We have been brushing him and stuff, but he just loves going out in the garden and digging and doing stuff. But he's gonna get a groom this Thursday. Yeah, someone's coming to, well, his groomer's coming to do we do it about twice a month. He's gonna get a nice haircut and gonna smell a lot better than he does now. Um, DZ015, thank you for your super chat. Hi Mario, how could you do a quick technical analysis of the S&P 500 daily chart? Looks like a key level has been hit, broken down. Thanks. Yeah, we're going to look at also the relative charts of silver versus S&P and stuff like that today. We'll do it later when the other guys come on. Frank, so I'll remember that S&P chart. Nasdaq chart doesn't look too good either. Frank Kavija, thank you for your super chat. Thank you for your analysis. Ready for silver to take off next week. Yeah, we've been waiting for that for a while, but I'm patient, and I think silver, like I said, the title of this live stream, yeah, it could be, and I think it will be like the best uh, investment this decade. And yeah, that's my opinion. I'm not telling people to buy silver, but there's so much potential for silver, and it's been suppressed for so long, and I don't think they can do it any longer. And the geopolitical situation has changed everything. People now want real silver. They don't just want it to speculate, and I think the division in the world will make it harder to get silver from different places. He's hoping $36 silver. Well, I saw Eric Sprott. He thinks when silver breaks $33 dollars a spot, that it could actually trigger a massive move towards 50. He could be right. So we'll have to wait and see, as usual. I've got with me here on my desk some, because I like to collect numismatic silver as well from all around the world. But one of my favorites is the florin. The UK uh, florin is like 2 shillings. Look how beautiful that coin is. And this is this is from 1916. Yeah, 1920 was the last, well, 1919 was when they took half the silver off. This was a sterling standard or a 925. Yeah, these are like one of my favorites. The florin. It's a little bit like a half dollar, I would say. Costco silver. I don't know. I'm not a member of Costco. There are Costco shops here in the UK. I've never been to a Costco. I buy my gold and silver from gold investments, and numismatic wise, I buy from different places. The one that I just showed you, I think I bought it on eBay, and it was a pretty good deal, I thought. So I lifted it, as we used to call it in the markets. You lift something when it's a good price. You buy it, and you hit the bid. Yeah, and the other thing in the futures market and in the bond markets, you don't buy at, you pay for, and you sell at. So if you call the broker and you say, I want yeah, 25 at. He's gonna buy it from you. You're gonna sell it. But if you sell buy at, you get confused. So I don't know if they still have these rules. Everything is done on the screen now. DS says if there's a recession, especially a depression, uh, stagflation or silver, isn't that likely to severely reduce demand for silver? Um, yeah, let me just Clive is here waiting. I'm gonna let him in. Um, I think a recession, depression, yeah, it could affect silver more. Yeah, it might underperform gold, but I don't think they're gonna allow it to become a depression, and they'll start printing again, and silver will catch up with it. But maybe we can ask Clive that question. Hi, Clive.
Good evening, Mario. How are you?
I'm all right, and you?
I heard you've got a question for me. What is it?
Yeah, I answered it. Diaz says if there's a recession or especially a depression, stagflation or similar, isn't that likely severely to reduce demand for silver? Well, actually, I thought of another thing, Diaz. In the 70s, we had a stagflation the whole time, and silver did quite well. But what do you think, Clive?
Well, we're not. We quite possibly are already in a recession, even though it's not an official recession yet. In 2024, the consumption of silver did rise. It wasn't very much, but it was about 2% overall rise in consumption of silver. But that was coming from a starting point where the consumption of silver was already significantly ahead of the mine production. So in 2024, according to the statistics from the Silver Institute, the mine production of silver did fall and the consumed production did rise. And that was despite massive dishoarding by private investors who were selling basically selling their silver, melting it down, and so forth. They haven't brought out a prediction for 2025 yet, but all everybody thinks that the mine production will fall again this year. But the one thing which is rising strongly, and I don't think this will be affected by a recession, is electronics consumption. So the amount of electronics going is in the world is increasing rapidly year after year. And last year, in 2024, the consumption of silver in electronics rose by 20%. And a subcomponent of that was photovoltaic, where it was about 68%. So even if we go into recession, I think the consumption of electronic goods will continue to rise, and there's no known reason that anyone knows why the silver consumption on the mine production should rise. So, uh, no, I think a recession won't cause the silver price to fall. I think it will cause it to rise because the demand will continue to rise. But of course, there is a sort of another factor. Although we had massive selling of silver in the last 3 years, year after year, people were selling their private silver to supply the difference. Uh, I suppose in a recession that might increase because people will be losing their jobs and they may have no choice. I mean, that's where a lot of the silver comes from.
Yeah, I saw Keith Newmeyer. He's the CEO of First Majestic. He was interviewed by Daniela Camboni, I think, in one of the conferences recently, and he said that he looked at her laptop. He said, "I bet you there's 15 to 20 ounces of silver, not ounces, but he said there's a lot of
Dollars.
silver. There's a lot of silver in everything." Anyway, Rafi's here. Gonna let him in. Uh, Maybe see what he thinks about that. We answer uh, let him wait for him to come on. Uh, Someone asked about the S&P, Clive. We're going to look at the chart of that soon. Hi, Rafi. How are you?
Hey Mario, hey Clive.
Hello, good evening, Rafi.
Good
Rafi,
evening.
yeah, nice to see you. We were answering a question. Maybe you've got your opinion on it. Do you think silver would do well in a recession or a stagflationary environment?
It will do well by purchasing power, maybe not in dollar terms. But I don't think there's going to be that kind of a recession anymore. I think we're done with that. So yeah, in stagflation, it would definitely do well in purchasing power and dollar terms. But if we look at 2020 when it was crashing to about, 11, $12, it was still doing a lot better than stocks at the time because of the shutdowns. But I don't expect something like that to happen again.
So you don't think there's going to be a recession? Is that because you think they're going to pump everything into it again, or?
There will be a recession in terms of lower quality of lower standard of living, but in terms of dollar prices, I think everything is just going to keep going up, and gold and silver will go up the fastest.
Yeah, I agree with that. And someone asked before you guys came on, because I've also got some charts here that I am going to share of silver compared to the stock market. But someone asked what I thought about the S&P, the technical picture. And this is a weekly chart. I mean, we could look at a daily, but I think it's too short term. But you can see here from this chart that this was the key level here, and we closed right on it. So that was the only positive thing that I see from the S&P chart. I think I get some of the research from Michael Oliver, momentum structural analysis, and the level he had for the S&P in terms of momentum was like 59.34. So we're way below that level. So I don't think the markets look very good technically. And I haven't drawn a trend line here, but if you drew a trend line from here to here, you can see that that's broken. I'll start with Clive. What are your thoughts on, I don't know if you follow the technicals that closely, Clive?
Well, I'm not a great fan of charts telling you the future, but of course they can confirm an opinion you've got based on other factors. So based on other factors, I think that the S&P is heading lower. I think it's really going to be driven by the technology stocks. I don't think some of the mid cap and small caps are nearly as risky. Actually, that some of them are quite good value. But yes, I think it's going to go lower. With the stocks to lighten up on are the high-flying technology stocks. They're great companies, perhaps. I have a different opinion on that, but most people think they're absolutely great companies, and but they're way overpriced. They've been powered on by the amount of money which is flowing into the ETFs, the exchange traded funds. So when people say to their advisor, "What should I buy?" Oh, you might as well buy an S&P 500 ETF because it has all 500 shares, you're diversified. So that money goes into the ETF, but those ETFs are 37% exposed to the top seven companies. So, of course, as money goes into the ETF manager buys those top seven companies, whereas the investor would probably be saying, I wouldn't buy them because they're overpriced. But the ETF has got no choice. And that's what's been pushing them higher. But I think we're getting to the point where that money flow into the ETFs is starting to dry up now. We've had this bull run for many, many years. It looks like it's coming to an end. And so with these stocks being so overpriced, I think that we will see the S&P 500 going lower now.
Rafi?
Yeah, I'm watching specifically the gold to S&P 500 ratio. I've been watching it for a few months now, and I think from what I remember from the chart, we're at a point where uh, I think it's at 0.51 or 0.508 or something, and it's been hovering around there since 2022. I think we've touched the point 10 times, and this is near an all-time. It's still near an all-time low, gold to S&P 500. So when we break through this level, there's not much holding it back. And then once people realize that they're losing value, they're losing purchasing power relative to gold and silver, gold right now, but it will be silver as well, not yet. Once they realize that they're losing purchasing power relative to gold, we're going to have a lot of people that are in mainstream stocks heading into gold and silver, just because the people that are in charge of managing their money will have no other choice.
Sorry, here's the chart, Rafi, gold to S&P. What level were you saying?
That it's towards the end there. if you draw like a parallel, a horizontal line from around 2021 to now, it's been hitting this line for about two and a
Yeah.
half, 3 years. Yeah.
This one here, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like we're right on it. Yeah. So we need to get above like 0.51, it seems.
Yeah. We're just about there.
Yeah, and you see now, yeah, I've drawn this falling wedge as well, and it looks like we've broken out of it here, and then we retested it here, and
Mhm.
now it's going again. So it looks interesting. Uh, and that was, of course, the S&P. So let's see if we've got some more questions here before. I've got some other charts to look at. Yeah, guys, any questions, feel free to ask. Um, did any of you see they had a conference in the White House for cryptos and Bitcoin, and Trump said the people say never sell, and he said, I don't know what the hell's gonna happen to it. And there's a picture of Michael Saylor going like this.
Yeah, I didn't see that conference, but what I did learn was that they have decided to start the Bitcoin strategic reserve, but they won't actually buy any Bitcoin, but they'll accept Bitcoin that they have confiscated and any other Bitcoin they can get for free. So I don't know how they're going to get Bitcoin for free. I mean, are they going to, how do you buy Bitcoin for free? I have no idea.
Well, the
But maybe they,
government just takes it, Clive.
yeah. Well, maybe they're hoping for donations. I'm sure that if, in fact, now they've got it, they're going to get a few 100 million of donations. That's for sure. So I guess that's where it's going to come from. But obviously, they haven't said they're going to buy any.
Yeah, there's a question here, Daniel L. Sovreno. Do you think bullion dealers will hesitate when buying your gold if it spikes? No, Daniel. A bullion dealer or any dealer in anything worth his salt, he'll buy and sell at any price. So that's the way I see it. Because
Yeah.
the bullion dealers, they don't buy and hold. They buy and they'll hedge or they sell it to other people. Rafi?
Yeah, exactly what you're saying. They're not speculators, they're market makers. They buy and sell. So they'll buy and sell at whatever the price is.
That's right. But what might happen if there's a lot of volatility, they will increase the premiums on either side, on the to buy and to sell. Because if the market's moving 5-10% a day, if it gets really hectic, that's what will happen. It would be more difficult. But when that happens, and it happened, guys, I remember in '08 when Lehman collapsed, the price dropped from like around 1,000 before earlier in the year to around below 700 at towards the end of 2008, and it was really difficult to get any physical, and the premium was really high. Clive?
Well, I think that silver will trade at a premium when the public come back to the market. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where we are at the moment. A few weeks ago, what I read and heard was that the silver dealers saw net people or net redemptions of silver. People bring their silver into the coin dealers to sell it, and therefore the premiums had fallen to a very, very low level. But of course, once the public at large starts to buy silver, the premiums will go up a lot. And while we're on the subject of silver, Mario, I had the good fortune to buy a little bit of silver today. It's Sunday, but we have what's in Switzerland. In the UK, you have the car boot sales. In America, you have what they call a yard sale. But in Switzerland, we have something called vide grenier, which means empty attics. And that usually takes place in the local town hall. And I managed to buy two silver coins today. One is a
Maple
Canadian
Leaf.
maple leaf, 1 ounce, with it's a 2013 coin, and the other one I have absolutely no idea. So if any of your listeners or viewers know what this one is, I'd love to know. On the back, it's written Zodiacos, like Zodiac OS, Zodiacos Taurus, like a
Yeah.
bull, Taurus, and then nothing on the front except a picture of a bull and the hours hours of clock.
Yeah.
And on the side, it's written something TSCHESCISCH, Muenze, Muenze, JABLONEC, Jablonec, NAD,
Maybe it's
Nisu.
Czechoslovakia. Czech.
Well, if you know that, that's good. I'd love to know what it is.
Well, it's good that it's ha got a bull on it. That's maybe a good omen for silver.
Oh yes, yes, yes.
Someone,
It's got the bull, the
yeah.
Taurus.
Someone has Frank Kavija, another super chat. Thank you. He says, "What is Michael Saylor's margin call level for what's it called? A micro strategy?" I don't know, have no idea. He might have to start selling some his one of his kidneys. I don't know. Do you guys know?
I read somewhere it's around 60,000,
All right, yeah. But
but I don't know if that's true.
he said that the debt that he issued is convertible, I guess, into the stock. So he said it doesn't matter if Bitcoin goes down to one because you know he'll be able to convert the debt into the stock of MicroStrategy, but that stock will be almost worthless. So he says, "Oh, we can't default," but technically that seems like a default to me. What do you think, Rafi?
I think anyone who takes Michael Saylor seriously is heavily engrossed in fantasy. This guy, he bankrupted thousands of investors, what was it, like 20 years ago or something?
And the dot com, he lost $7 billion in a day, I think, or
I
something.
mean, he's the kind of personality he's addicted to this stuff. Like sort of like Evil Knievel or some kind of daredevil. They live for this and they do the craziest things that they possibly can. And you know, if they want to do it themselves, fine. But he's dragging people along and telling them he's not even telling a good story. He's not even a particularly convincing storyteller. He has like these crazy eyes, and I don't understand why anyone listens to him at all. But other things have surprised me also. So what do I know?
Yeah, a few years ago he said, "Oh, just sell everything, your family business. If it's been in the family for generations, mortgage everything and buy Bitcoin." But anyway, let's have a look here because we wanted to talk about silver at some of these charts that I've got ready. And Rafi, I did one of a silver versus the not the Nasdaq 100. I did the Nasdaq Composite. And I think that's looking pretty good too. And the interesting thing about these, if you look at the levels, yeah, it's like 00179. But if you go to the early 80s, we were at, like zero point 0.3. So if you
Hmm.
do zero point 0.3, I'm not saying it's going to go there, but it's not impossible. If you zero point 0.3 enter
I'm
point,
at 0.00179. It's like
yeah.
30 times.
No, it's 167 times.
Okay, well, I was way off there. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's all right. That's why I use my Hewlett Packard calculator, my old.
H HP. Look at that.
Well, one of your readers listeners has just written, instead of buying one Bitcoin, why don't you buy a kilo of gold bars? It's cheaper and it's not fictitious. I thought that was quite a good
Well,
comment.
yeah, I think that's good. Here in the UK, I'd buy coins of the realm because there's no capital gains. But yeah, I get it. A kilo bar. Clive could buy one in Switzerland. There's no capital gains. But even if we just go up to this level here, which is like 0.02, I think that's about, let's see, 0.02 enter 0.00179 divided. That's like 10 times. So that's why the title of the live stream was that we could see the silver leave the Nasdaq in the dust because we are at extreme levels and we've got a falling wedge here too, guys, that I see. And I don't think it will take much to move silver if even a little bit of the money in the Magnificent Seven flows out of that sector. What do you think, Clive? You know a lot of the
Sure.
proportions of where people have their money.
Well, the money is not and has not been going into silver or gold for the time being, and we can tell that by looking at the ETFs and seeing that nothing's entering. So the buyers of gold for sure have been some big institutions, perhaps central banks, perhaps the Fed Reserve, perhaps Warren Buffett. We don't know, but there's obviously somebody taking delivery of 100 ounce bars, which are big bars of gold. The same thing, 5,000 ounce bars of silver. Uh, so these are big buyers who are pushing up the prices, not the man in the street. Uh, what do I think is going to happen? Well, I think when Nasdaq is down and people perceive it's down, and it's on its way down already as I see it, but I think a lot of people haven't noticed that yet. I think they're going to turn around, look for something else to buy, and silver could well be the place they turn. They're gonna, people have been buying these volatile stocks. Will look for something else which is volatile. And silver, we all know, is more volatile than gold. So I think there's a pretty good chance that might be the thing they dive into. But I think the supply and demand looks after itself in the long run. In the short run, we might have this real rush of people, and that would make a very big difference because the silver market and the gold market, compared with the stock market, are both are absolutely tiny. So it would only take a tiny amount of money changing place from stock market to precious metals to move those prices a long way.
Yeah. What about you, Rafi? What do you think?
Um, I think, yeah, it's not going to take a lot of capital to move the gold and silver prices. Just because everything is stuffed into the same stuff. Well, you said the Magnificent Seven. Everything is stuffed into it's either Magnificent Seven or it's Bitcoin. Everybody follows the leader these days. You have everybody. It's a reflection of centralization, right? There's a centralization of everything that includes the centralization of the leaders of stock picks or what everybody scurries into like little mice or rats. Everybody follows everyone because the information is centralized. You go on Twitter, you find out what's up today. I'm pretty sure that's how a lot of these money managers do it. Like, they have these algorithms that track stocks that are being tweeted about a lot. So they buy a certain position of those every day, and like everything just like becomes a follow follow a bunch of nonsense. But then when it falls apart, nobody knows what to do. So then the instinct is going to be to buy gold and silver because there's going to be nothing else.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I'm going to change topic slightly here. We'll go back to silver. Someone made a funny comment here, and it says, Mario, they found Zelensky's dirty men safe while digging for rare minerals. And so, with that in mind, for those of you who don't know, Dirty Men Safe is, well, they also sponsor Rafi, but, well, they are our affiliates, and they provide underground safe solutions. So, I've got one. It's really, really like convenient. I'm not saying you should put all your valuables in it, but yeah, Dirty Men Safe, hiding in plain sight. And if you're interested, there's a link below in the description, and you get 10% off if you use my link. And I think they send you also a special gift. Some people have said, "Oh, I could build it myself," but I think they do a good job. I'm not a DIY guy, so there you go. Dirty Man Safe. Zelensky, I think he would need many dirty men safes, doesn't he? For all the stuff that for all his ill-gotten gains, I would say. Um,
Well, billions went missing. We don't know where they are, do we?
no, uh, maybe they should check in Delaware, I think. Uh,
Mary, I was just wondering if anybody knows, and I've tried to find out, I can't find out, if tariffs have been imposed on gold and silver. President Trump says he's going to impose tariffs on all commodities, but there was nothing specific. So, what do you think?
uh, I guess all commodities would mean gold and silver, but they could make an exemption because they could say it's a monetary commodity. But and I think they keep delaying these tariffs. They delayed it now to April 2nd, the ones from Canada and Mexico. But the other thing about gold, and I heard Jim Rickards say this, and he's right about that. He wasn't right about some other things, but he said with a commodity like gold that's so yeah, gold is the same everywhere. If you're gonna put tariffs on Canadian gold or Mexican gold or silver, people just get it from somewhere else, and the price won't change that much. That's what I think. And I think what's happening, all this gold and also silver flowing to the U.S. is not to do with the tariffs. It's more to do with I think the U.S. government and some big investors wanting to have physical gold out of Europe. Maybe that's the other reason as well, because Europe seems to be going crazy about fighting the Russians. What do you think, Rafi?
Europe going crazy about fighting the Russians.
Yeah, they are. I mean, they're saying some pretty
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what's going to happen once it's clear that the American money has been turned off either by Trump or by the market itself, which will destroy the dollar. It seems that maybe Trump is actually turning off the spigots. I see that in the headlines. I don't know what to trust. But let them fight the war if they want to fight it, or figure out how not to. I mean, shouldn't it be up to them? Why should America sponsor Europe's defense if they're busy invading people's houses for posting memes? I don't understand. What are they? It seems like Europe, besides the UK, Europe, mainland Europe, has never been a democracy ever. I mean, the only time was post World War II when America is at the peak of its power and telling every country what to do and how to have their own political systems. But Germany was never a democracy, and France was almost never a democracy. They've had what, five or six republics since the French Revolution, and that was scary, bloody.
it,
The only European country with any tradition for any form of democracy is the UK.
and also where Clive is.
Yeah,
Oh
look,
yeah.
all I can say is I'm hoping for more diplomacy and less saber waving.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Switzerland definitely has a very good tradition of diplomacy and being neutral. That I give them for sure. And you could have a good government coming from that policy. Neutrality is always a good policy if you can maintain it. It seems that Switzerland has, and I give them credit for that for sure.
Well, they've been a democracy since 1291, actually, Switzerland. It
Oh,
was,
really?
yeah. It started out two or three cantons and then it spread. So yeah, it's the oldest democracy, I would
How
say.
long have they been neutral?
Since the end of Napoleonic Wars, I think, a couple of hundred years. Isn't
Hmm.
it, Clive, you think? I don't know.
Yeah. It was certainly into the previous century, the one before the previous century. I mean, the important thing about Switzerland is there's no dominant political party, and everything has to be voted on by the people. So, even if they're going to do things like spend more money on fighter jets or increase the size of the army or anything, the population at large has their say in that, and it will go to referendum, and the government has to listen to the people. So, unlike other countries where you've got a few despotic leaders at the top of the pile deciding what will happen, in Switzerland, nothing can happen unless the population agree.
Well, I
Yeah,
stand corrected then.
that's fine. It's all right. Uh, Glenn Dallaire is asking, to what extent should the cost of taking an ounce of silver out of the ground relate to the actual silver price? In other words, if it costs $17 dollars to mine, how much higher should it cost? Well, there's a lot of factors involved, I guess. How much demand for it there is, how much. So I don't think there's too many pure silver mining companies, and you even have to look at the bullion banks now as well because they've as David Jansen, who I've had on the channel several times now, as he says, the LBMA creates an endless supply of paper silver. So uh, I'm not sure. I mean, the only thing that's important about the cost of mining is for the to determine whether a mining silver miner is going to do really well or not. What do you think, Clive? I see that you're nodding.
Yeah, well, there's a number of pure silver miners. Fresnillo, which is quoted in the UK, is one of them. I think it's the biggest in the world. But for the most part, silver is coming out of the ground as a byproduct of mining something else. So the cost of mining the silver isn't particularly relevant because we're talking about the cost of mining copper and silver, and what the as the most of the output is going to be the copper, there it's much more influenced by the price of copper. So if the price of copper goes up, I suppose more silver will come out of the ground over time, and if the price of copper goes down, I suppose there'll be less silver coming out of the ground. It's not really the price of silver which determines what comes out of the ground, but what the price of silver does determine is how much of the above ground stock of silver gets sold or recycled. Because every time the price goes up, people say, I'm not buying any more coins because they're too expensive this week. And the grannies all say, let's take my silver candlesticks or my knives and forks down to the pawn shop and see what I can get for them.
Rafi, any opinion on that question?
Um, on on if what price does silver have to be to make it profitable for miners?
Or
Yeah, so
whether, and how much more does where the price needs to be if yeah, it's $17, for example.
It's hard. I don't think you can answer that the price has to be a certain dollar amount. I think what has to happen for silver miners, they've been so bad for so long because nobody ever expects the silver price to rise and then stay there. So we have to be in a world where let's say the gold to silver ratio goes up, let's say above 50 to like 40 or 30, and then just like hangs around there because the dollar just isn't working well anymore. Once I think we're at a gold to silver ratio of, let's say, 50, 40, 30, something like that, and it's stable at around that point, then at some point the pure silver miners should just take off and just find be just fundamentally revalued very quickly. I mean, I've been waiting for this for 10, 15 years now, and I still believe it's coming. It's just, at this point, you'll ask, when and how much longer, and it's a logical necessity. It has to happen. It's
Well,
just one of the most frustrating questions, though.
Yeah.
Well, while you were talking, I just put into an artificial intelligence engine how much is the cost of mining silver, and it came up with Fresnillo's results. It says it's between $11.40 for the cheapest of their mines and $23.90 for the most expensive of their mines. Those are 2023 costs, so all those numbers will be higher now.
Yeah. So, Steve Montplaisir, thank you for your super chat. He says Zelensky's wife was spotted purchasing an $18 million Bugatti. Must be good to have other people's money to burn. That's a expensive car. 18 million.
$18 million for a car?
Yeah, Bugatti, that's a car, isn't it, Clive? Or is that a yacht?
Uh, it's a car, but it sounds like it's made of solid gold.
Yeah, it could be. Well, I haven't seen that. I'm sure they bought quite a bit, but a lot of stuff as well is just you can't really. Uh,
Isn't that a subsidiary of Volkswagen? I'm not sure about that.
it's an Italian brand, isn't it? I don't know, but
Oh, is it? Okay, I don't know.
how much to mine gold? Fuzzy Love is asking. Well, I saw that Barrick Gold said that their cost for 1 ounce is 1,463 or thereabouts. So they're making loads of money and I think Newmont is around 1,600. But apparently, I've heard that some analysts think it could drop because they've gotten rid of a lot of their mines that aren't really that great. So yeah, gold is interesting as well. And I think it's Well, it says here really cold. Eric Sprott calling for $40 silver this year. Yeah, I don't think that's much of a. I think it's very possible. He thinks if we break 33, it could go pretty crazy. I don't know. We'll have to see. Just wanted to bring up some more charts here. Let's see what. Oh yeah, one of the charts I have is gold versus the 10-year note, not the yield, but the price. And I've looked at this before. Don't know if you guys have seen this. And this is from like 2006. So, I mean, people who say that treasuries are a safe haven and that when there's like a crisis, the whole world will rush to treasuries. I'm not sure yeah, what they're thinking because even here now, this is a monthly chart. Yeah, gold has kind of stopped going up because treasuries have rallied a bit, but I think this is a pretty bullish formation. The yeah, Rafi, do you ever look at this or?
I've never seen this particular chart, but it looks very similar to just the gold to dollar chart because
Yeah,
the dollar and the tre dollars and treasuries are
the same.
very similar assets because one backs the other.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, Clive?
Well, it's looks like a classical saucer
Yeah.
formation. It went down, it bottomed out, now it's going up, and that's the direction of travel until it stops.
Yeah, and even, even if let's say there was a crisis and the Fed started QE and buying treasuries, and treasuries go up, gold could go up faster than treasuries like it did here when they started QE in 08, 09. So there's
Well,
that too.
just on treasuries, don't forget we have a debt ceiling in place. So the US government is not supplying the market with any new treasuries. So at the moment, there's no supply, and that's why treasury prices have moved a little bit higher. But what happens when they raise the debt ceiling again, as they surely will? They've got until August before they absolutely go bankrupt. So they raise the debt ceiling at some point. They'll issue a massive amount of treasuries at that point, and at the same time, they're imposing tariffs on all these foreign countries. And part of the idea of tariffs, whilst that's raising revenue for the Americans, it's damaging the foreign economies. So, what's the reason why the foreign economies would want to hold so many treasuries if they got less dollars coming in the door?
Yeah, and also with what's happened the last 3 years with Russia, why would foreign countries want to go to treasuries if they could be frozen
I,
as
I don't I don't know if you saw this, but the Chinese just released their foreign exchange reserves again, and they have once again bought 160,000 ounces of gold. They bought 160,000 in December, I think in January, and then in December I think it was 320 ounces, and November it was 120, 160 again. So it looks like they're on a mission to buy 160,000 ounces of gold every month because it's been like three months in a row they bought
yeah,
160,000 ounces.
I saw that and yeah, I saw that came out this week and they're probably doing it also through other entities, not just the PBOC. And did you see that Poland bought 23 tons in 1 month, which is quite a big number as well.
They were a regular buyer last year as well, weren't they?
Yeah, they're one of the biggest. And this is the Dow gold ratio. And we've closed here at what's the level? 1471. I think the low was around 1455, but it's the lowest level in 5 years. So I definitely think the stock market is keeling over. And it topped like in actually 2019, or I don't know if it's 2019, 2018 here. So in real money, Rafi, and I, I think this is another reason why I think we could see some kind of correction in the S&P and Nasdaq measured in terms of fiat. What do you think, Rafi?
As long as the Fed holds off from printing another round of dollars, yeah, the it will deflate. But that's what the road to the end game is. It's a constant threat of hyperdeflation, and then a reversal to a threat to hyperinflation, and then finally one side has precedence or is picked over the other,
Yeah,
and ultimately it's always hyperinflation that's picked. It's either that or go back to 1933. I mean, the decision becomes ever more binary as you get closer and closer to the end.
yeah. And yeah, I saw that on Friday. Jay Powell came out and said that the economy is fine. So I guess that was taken as being hawkish. Um, what do you think, Clive? I don't think the U.S. economy is doing that well, to be honest.
Um, it, First of all, inflation is not going to get to 2%. I think that's not going to happen. We're seeing rising inflation now, but we're also seeing rising unemployment, and they're firing a lot of people from the government. I don't think the people they're firing, to a large extent, are probably the people they hired in the run up to the election. Don't forget there were huge numbers of people hired by the U.S. government in the run up to election to make the jobs numbers look good. So obviously with these people being fired, I think a lot of them will get paid until September. Those numbers are going to start increasing the number of unemployed, assuming some of them don't find other jobs. The spending will in the United States will be decreasing due to the increased unemployment. So yeah, I think we're most likely to get an official recession soon. At the moment, it's not official, but it looks to me like it's been in recession for a few months, and I think all the signs I see with slowing numbers, slowing economy, slowing production, it looks like we're heading that way. That's my opinion.
I noticed in the last jobs number that the U6 unemployment rate jumped from 7.6 to 8, which
Oh,
is
really?
yeah, quite a
Check
good
that.
jump. Yeah, check it, Rafi. And there's a super chat here from Clifton Moberg. Thank you, Clifton. And he's asking you a question. I don't know if you, this is not a relevant question for this live stream, but I'll ask you anyway. What is going to happen with Syria? I think it personally, I think you can, Rafi can answer as well, but I personally think Syria is finished as a country and it's be broken up. I mean, maybe the Turks will take over some of it. The Kurds, I don't know. What do you think, Rafi?
Um, I don't know what's going to happen with Syria. I don't think it was anybody's plan that it was going to fall apart like it has. It's an interesting byproduct, but Syria never really was a country. It's an imaginary kind. It's just a bunch of tribes. I mean that the Arab society works in units called chamulot, which are just like big families. When we think of like a feud between families in the Wild West, that's how Arabs function. So they don't really have states. They just have gangs. And and the British and other Western powers made up, oh, we're going to call this place Syria, even though it was just like a geographic term for that area of land, but has no political significance to it because in ancient times that's what it was called, Syria. So we'll just like make some artificial borders, smush all these Chamulot into one area and call it a country. I
Yeah.
mean, it makes no sense.
Rafi, I got you the U6 here. As you can see, U6 unemployment 7.5 to 8. Can you,
Mhm.
I forgot the exact definition of U6. Is that when they add even people who have stopped looking for work?
I'm looking at the Fred here, and it says total unemployed plus all persons marginally attached to the labor force plus total employed part-time for economic reasons as a percent of the labor force plus all persons marginally attached to the labor force.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Yeah, and I think this one here, the unemployment rate, this one is just for people who are looking, who haven't given up looking. Yeah, so if you click on this, sometimes it gives you a chart. So if we look at yeah, that is quite a It could be like a breakout, couldn't it? Don't know if it's related to Doge or so. Yeah, I don't think that's looking pretty good.
These numbers are consistently unreliable and constantly revised upwards, downwards, sideways, depending on what they want to prove.
Yeah,
I haven't looked at the figures this month, but I know that for the majority of last year, almost every month, they revised the non-farm payrolls of the previous month downwards to make the current month's increase or number look like a big increase when it wasn't.
yeah. I think they revised it by 800,000, didn't they? From at one point.
One month there was a huge revision of that order, yes,
Yeah.
but it was like every month they revised it downwards.
We're talking about recession. Look who's been talking about recession. It's come out in the FT. Trump does not rule out a recession as he rejects business fears over tariffs. So, I mean, if the president of the United States doesn't rule out a recession, I would say that we're probably going into one. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this tariff question, it seems to be one day he's left, next day he's right, next day he's left. It's on off on off. How do businesses even know where they stand? I mean, if you're an American business and you're thinking, okay, they're going to impose tariffs on, I don't know, avocados from Mexico or something, you might think, well, I'll start an avocado farm, but that's going to take years to get up and running. But you don't know; it's only going to be profitable if those tariffs are in place, and you don't know if those tariffs will be in place next week, let alone 10 years from now.
Yeah, it's been uncertain, hasn't it? He's delayed the tariffs a couple of times. Maybe he's negotiating with those countries. Andrew Brown, what impact will the Euro CBDC have on gold and silver prices when its introduction in October? Yeah, I've seen that that the ECB is bringing out CBDC and do you know a little bit about that, Clive? Are they going to impo I'm sure they're not going to impose it on everyone. It's going to be like if you want to use it. I'm sure there'll still be euro banknotes and coins.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, the currency of the day will continue to circulate for quite some time, but it's clear that the plan is for sooner or later the CBDC to be the only thing you can use, and probably they'll get to the point where they force every bank to have a CBDC wallet on behalf of their customers, so that every transaction you do is via CBDC, which means they'll be able to monitor you for tax evasion, for money laundering, for criminal activity, or worse, antisocial behavior. So if, for example, you happen to have been spotted by an AI camera attending a demonstration against the government, next time you want to buy a train ticket to go to the center of a big town, you might find it won't sell you one.
Yeah, I saw on Twitter someone posted that, and someone said, "Oh, just like in China." And then someone replied, "Well, in China, and I assume this person lives in China, I can still buy a car with cash." And they said the only reason, and they said the Chinese Communist Party, uh, all they want is to stay in power. And what I think he meant by that is that they're not really trying to do what the Europeans are trying to do, impose all these controls on them. They're just trying to keep them happy. And it's interesting. My wife, she goes to do her nails once in a while, and it's a Chinese lady, and she said we use a lot of in China. Cash is like pretty much what we use. There's no such thing as just using cards. But
Really? I remember Jim Rogers saying the exact opposite, or maybe he was talking about Singapore.
yeah, but like in the countryside in China, I think people still use a lot of cash.
Okay.
Clive might know a bit more.
Well, my wife was born in China and she went to visit her mother a year or two ago, and she said that she was literally forced to buy uh, or get WhatsApp, not WhatsApp, WeChat it's called, and she had to do something. I think she had to open a Chinese bank account as well, which was allowed, because that was the only way she could spend money.
Yeah,
So it's I mean, we're hearing different stories. Maybe it's different places. Maybe one
yeah,
place takes cash, another one
yeah.
doesn't. But
It's a big country anyway, and I've heard the regional governments are quite independent in China, but as to do with gold, I don't think anything will change. Just like we can still, well, gold is still doing well now, and I don't think just because they have a CBDC will mean that they're not going to keep inflating. They'll probably inflate even more, but than they're doing right now because they're going to be able to control where the money goes. So they'll make sure that the banking systems gets the money, but they could make it harder for you to buy gold if they see that you're buying too much gold. They from a particular dealer or several dealers a month. They might put a limit on how much gold you could buy. I mean, this could be very draconian. My hope is that the European Union just collapses and the euro, is broken apart, and we go back to the old legacy currencies. But it seems to me, guys, that Europe is becoming more and more, like Rafi said, Europe is not really a democracy. I just saw today that Romania banned the guy who won the first round last year of the presidential election. They banned him from the new election. So there you go. Uh,
In the name of democracy. Yeah.
yeah, great, isn't it? It's ridiculous.
there's someone there writing that someone from China who's doing videos from China say that a lot of cash is still used, mostly younger ones, more card transactions. You can still see them selling garden produce at the side of the road, unlikely to be using a card.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine that I don't know if that's true, but I would have thought that I've heard that even the beggars in China now have WeChat to take their donations.
Yeah.
Not that you see many beggars in China. I mean, they're
Yeah.
virtually unknown.
What I heard about China now, there's very little crime because the face recognition cameras are so good. So crime has kind of almost disappeared, which is a good thing. But there's always the surveillance side of things. But I don't know. But I think these could become popular in Europe again. If people want to circumvent CBDCs, but silver coins and stuff. But maybe that's t me talking my book and my way of thinking. What do you think, Rafi?
In any society where the above board economy becomes too choked, too strangled, then the real economy is the black market economy. Now, usually we're used to talking about the black market economy in terms of goods or price controls, like if you could only get a certain amount of tobacco or a certain amount of alcohol, or during prohibition or something, what's the price of alcohol or what's the price of whiskey? It's going to be a lot higher because of legislation, but it applies to the monetary goods as well. If you're unable to buy any gold or silver because the currency is in collapse and you just can't get any, well then the gold and silver become the money itself in the black market that runs in parallel to the actual to the legal economy, which becomes more and more and more strangulated, and then it only becomes a nominal trading system and nobody's actually using it because it's useless. So in the end, it doesn't matter what they say, what's legal, what's illegal. The real economy is going to be where transactions actually take place. And because gold and silver are money, a black market can function perfectly well with just gold and silver coins.
Hmm.
It can work. And so that's what will happen if this once the CBDCs lose all value and they say everything is illegal except the CBDCs. Well, fine, people will use the CBDC, but not for anything, worthwhile. Maybe for like gum or candy, and then everything else they'll use actual coins because they won't be available to buy with CBDCs because they'll be practically worthless.
Yeah, and that's I've got a box here. It's my old cigar box. I got all these silver coins. I've got someone asked, what about sixpence silver? Well, I've got sixpence, but I've found a threepenny bit, Clive. That's
Ah, yes.
95. It's kind of it's a bit smaller than the dime. So I've got dimes. So if I go to Australia, I've got an Australian shilling as well. So there you go.
That come in handy if you travel to Australia in a crisis. You'll be buying. How will you buy a plane ticket, Mario?
Uh, I don't know. Maybe
But you'll need a gold. You'll need a
silver
gold one
and
for that.
silver and gold will be worth so much that I could hire a private jet.
That's it. That's it. Yes. No, I mean, obviously, it makes sense for anybody who fears that there's going to be a monetary collapse. You should definitely have a bag of old silver coins of the country where you're living,
Yeah.
and every country used to have silver coins. And just on Rafi's point, way back when before the Second World War, um, in areas of high inflation, hyperinflation, people were using gold coins. That was what you could with a few gold coins you could buy a home. Now, after the Second World War, we still had high inflation in many Eastern European countries, but and of course South America too. But at that point, the dollar was king, and we're seeing that even today. We've still got high inflation in some countries in South America. Those countries operate on the dollar because they trust the dollar. They don't need gold and silver. But if the dollar goes to pot, of course, gold and silver will come back.
Yeah, no, I think it's already coming back, and it's coming back first via the big institutions, the central banks. I think they see the writing on the wall about the dollar, not because they're like against America, but just because they've printed so much. Even Putin, about 2.5, 3 years ago, he said that the dollar was gonna go, and I think he's right. Indy, thank you for your super chat. He says 1,600, I guess, concurrent viewers and only 550 thumbs up. Let's get that number up. And he says Jesus equals sovereign king. I'm just saying what he said, Rafi. I'm not trying to uh, piss you off or anything.
Uh, I just gave you a thumbs up, Mario.
Yeah, but I'll also, if I go to Papua New Guinea, I have some Papua New Guinea shillings that have a hole in it.
Yeah, that was to so they could wear them around their neck like a necklace.
Yeah, yeah, I know. I think the Chinese did that to their silver.
Yeah.
Didn't they?
Well, you could. I mean, there was a time when you couldn't trust leaving your gold and silver at home, so you better wear it.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, so in Belly Dance Arabia, when silver hits 50, watch silver disappear in day. Keep away from my boat, you all. Uh, yeah. What else is there? Mr. B, thank you for being the moderator. Yeah, I haven't seen many of those. I remember a few years ago when I started doing these live streams, we used to get a lot of bots, but thankfully we don't get those anymore. Yeah, guys, you've got the chance here, the last 5 minutes to ask some questions. Um, yeah, someone asked Clive, said, "Oh, my wife is asking whether Clive is married." So, well, Clive just said his wife is
Well,
China, so he is married.
yeah, I'm married, but maybe just on that, I'd describe a kind of funny incident today. I was on my own actually, but I was at this yard sale, boot sale. It's actually called the empty attic sale, and there was I actually bought this is what I bought. It was a screwdriver, but
You
I
bought a
went up.
screwdriver from?
Well, from a different store. I got these two coins in different places, but I needed a screwdriver for my office. But I went up to the seller, who was an old lady, and she. By the way, everybody seems to speak perfect English around here. So I went up to her, but I said in my best French, uh, but I said in French, "Est-ce que je peux avoir le screwdriver?" Because I couldn't think of the word in French. It's tournevis, but I didn't think of it. But she was English, and she said, and her reply to me was, "I'm not your driver, but if you come back later." And all the girls around her started laughing. So if one of your listeners would like to explain that to me, I'd be very happy. It's probably she was laughing at my French.
Yeah. Uh, someone's asking, I know the answer, Clive, Rafi, but I'll ask you. Someone asked, what is the silver content of the new Israeli shekel?
Zero.
Yeah, big fat zero. Yeah. When was the last time did the shekel have ever have any silver in it? Maybe in the 60s,
Never.
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 It's weird,
You
isn't it?
sure? I thought I'd heard of the silver shekel. Obviously not. Rafi would know.
The biblical shekel is of course silver,
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
okay.
but
Group six, you can get a Dirty Man safe if you go to my YouTube channel in the description section of every video or even this live stream. There'll be a link there. And if you use my link, you get 10% off for Dirty Man Safe. They ship, of course, in North America. They also ship to Europe and the UK. Uh, Justin Taylor, the UK Coinage Act states that coins of the realm can be called in any time. No, they can't be called in any time. Coins of the realm. Coins are your property, and I'm actually reading about this. One of the viewers sent me this. This is from the Middle Ages, and this guy, Nicholas Oresme, he was from the University of Paris. He was saying back then that money or coinage, and yeah, for him, money coinage was money. Yes, the prince or the head of the country, it was his duty to stamp the coin and make sure it had the right content. But the coin was the property of whoever brought the gold and silver to the mint, or because if you recall, you can't really recall coins because uh, the government doesn't mint coins and give it to people. People earn it. So I've had this question asked many times, and I mentioned this, and someone sent me the book, which is good. It's a question that's been asked a lot, and I'm glad in a way that they have asked, and I'm going to talk about this book. It's really interesting. It's actually Rafi, I think you'd like this book. Like there's one page is in Latin and the other is in English. Of course, I'm just reading the English part, but that's what he says. I don't think they can recall the coins. This is what FDR did. He confiscated the coins, but that's theft, and I don't think they'll do that here. Of course, they could get desperate, but even if they were to do that, I still think it's the best kind of thing to have to protect your savings. Have you?
They can't do it, Mario, because the only reason to confiscate your gold is because the government has to pay its bills in gold. So if we are back on a gold standard, the government has no choice. Fair enough. But we're not on a gold standard. The government pays its bills in paper. And so why would they want your gold? It doesn't serve any purpose to confiscate your gold.
I agree. And even if they were on a gold standard or a silver, I think it'd be very difficult to do that because it's basically stealing from you. Because even in the Middle Ages, the coin was seen, and I think he mentions Aristotle and the Politics, the work that Aristotle wrote, that yeah, the money belongs to the community, and the government provides the service of it's the duty to mint it, but not to take it from you. They can take it from you as an exchange for a service that you give to the government. Rafi, have you got an opinion on that?
Yeah, I was actually just talking about this today, that people use the word confiscation when it comes to what happened with FDR, but it wasn't really that. Technically, it was. But what he was basically asking nicely, and people were saying sure because he was offering $21 for the coins, which was the exchange rate officially at the time. He had a plan to raise it to 35, but it wasn't like he was sending out the army to like beat down doors and hold people at gunpoint to get their gold. It was mostly voluntarily given because they were being patriotic. They wanted to help out, and people still trusted the government back then. If you read the Diary of the Great Depression by Benjamin Roth, he was on the other side. He was on the Republican side. He didn't quite trust FDR, but he wasn't trying to be uncooperative. He wanted his plans to work and he wanted to support them, even though he didn't really believe in them. But that was the feeling in the country. Like maybe what FDR is doing, I don't like it, but I'm gonna cooperate. I'm gonna participate to try to get us out of this depression. There was no real confiscation, and if they tried to do it this time, people wouldn't cooperate, and then the government wouldn't be able to do anything.
Yeah, and I think SD Bullion was it James Anderson. He's done some research and he apparently they only got like a quarter of all the gold that was in the circulating. And don't forget you could keep up to $100, so you could keep five double eagles or 10 eagles. So anything above that you had to hand in. And like you said, they did give you Federal Reserve notes for it. Yeah, and people did see it as patriotic. But looking back, I see it as more saving the banks because it was the banks that issued too many uh, unbacked loans, and then they went bust. But yeah, let's call it a day here. And before we go, any final words? Let's start with Clive and then Rafi for the viewers.
Well, I'm getting a lot of interesting questions from your readers and viewers, Mario. I'm trying to reply as to many as I can. I'm very sorry for those I've missed because I'm getting far more than I can cope with, but I'm doing what I can. And of course, people are welcome to send me their questions if they've got an interesting question uh, on any type of investments. So it's not just gold or silver; it's the whole area of investments. And you can find me on LinkedIn. And thanks very much for the show, Mario. Very interesting.
Yeah, you're welcome. Rafi?
My final words. Who knows what's going to happen next week, or if I see you again on a live stream in a few weeks? Could be a completely different world. We're in that place now where we don't know what's going to happen day to day, week to week. Um, Politics are moving fast. The whole world is reorganizing very quickly, and however it ends up being reorganized, there's one thing that's not going to change, and that gold and silver and money.
Well, that's really a good point there, Rafi, and I agree with you. I think it was Lenin who said that sometimes it takes decades for things to change, and then it all happens all at once, and it feels like we're in that kind of environment. So, thank you, guys, for being on, and thank you, the viewers, for participating, and I'll talk to you soon. Okay, let's end the stream. All right.
All right,
Thank
have a good night, everybody.
you too, Rafi.